Hey, somebody needs to pray for our leaders. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to The Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today and with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or a coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. This week, The Professional Noticer is sponsored by Books for Veterans. As you know, last year, the Veterans Administration in Washington, D.C. asked for 10,000 Andy Andrews books, and you made that happen. Well, we might have created a situation here because now they say they'd like to have 10,000 more. So just like last year, I'm personally donating as many as I can, but to reach 10,000 again, I need your help again. What we now have to make that easier and even more fun for you, these awesome Books for Veterans t-shirts. So when you purchase a t-shirt, a hardcover book will be sent to the Veterans Administration in your name. The shirt, of course, will come to you. And if you'd rather just donate the books, for every $12 donation you make, another hardcover, Traveler's Gift, Noticer, Heart Mender, 7 Decisions, or Butterfly Effect will go to the Veterans Administration for the veterans, their families, and for the employees of the VA. That $12 will cover the cost of the book, the shipping, and the handling. So whether you can spread the message of Books for Veterans by wearing the t-shirt, whether you can make it a personal gift or a corporate donation, just go to andyandrews.com/veterans. This can be added to a website purchase or done as an individual entry. And thanks very much for your support. Observations and answers, that's what we do here on The Professional Noticer. And as you know, we love it when somebody comes to the table with both. We have that today. Our guest today is a friend of mine. And a great friend, and somebody that I admire greatly. He's talented. He's unique. He has spent his entire life in a wheelchair. He was born with muscular dystrophy, and he was also born with one of the greatest voices God ever gave anybody. He was on national television at 10 years old with the Oak Ridge Boys. We'll ask him about that. But he has been the Bluegrass Music Association's Male Vocalist of the Year. He has had an album on the top 10 country list. He's part of Gaither's Homecoming Friends tour. And he is also part of the supergroup Brothers of the Heart that you've seen on the podcast before. Please welcome Bradley Walker. Bradley, how are you doing?
Andy, I'm wonderful. Thank you for that incredible introduction, man. That's
It could have been longer. It could have been a lot longer. Man, are you at home? Are you in Athens?
I'm in Athens. I'm actually home right now in my office here at the house, and for about a day and a half. You caught me in between shows. We've been out this week with the guys, Brothers of the Heart. We were in Indiana a couple days ago, and then we're leaving tomorrow and going to Pennsylvania. So it's a busy time right now. Very blessed. Very blessed.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Bradley, when I would like people to get a little sense of your background. I know it because you and I are friends, and I want to include in this podcast some clips, of you singing, because the first time I ever heard you, it gave me the shakes. It was just unbelievable, and that's kind of the reaction that everybody has. Were you born with this ability to sing and that tone in your voice? Where does this come from?
Man, I've been singing, Andy, since I was about 3 and 4 years old. Actually, the way I remember it, we were just going down the road, riding down the road one day, and music was always on in my house growing up. My family has always loved music, and so the radio was always on, and I think I just started singing along with the radio one day at that early of an age. So yeah, I've been singing all my life. It's the one thing I've always wanted to do. It's how I've wanted to make my living, and just wanted to be able to sing. I started out singing as most people do in church, and singing any opportunity I could get. I met the Oak Ridge Boys early on, very early on.
Yeah. How did that happen? I've had a couple of conversations with Joe Bonsall and Dwayne Allen about you, and they are just huge admirers of you. And
Yeah.
but I've never known, how did it come to you being on television with them?
Well, we had a mutual friend who ran the Huntsville, Alabama Hilton Hotel, which is just across from the Von Braun Civic Center.
I guess I should tell people that you're in your home in Athens, Alabama, not Athens, Greece. So
That's right. That's right.
So go ahead. All right. So in Huntsville.
That's right. We had a mutual friend in Huntsville who, like I said, he ran the Hilton where all the artists stayed back in the day. And he knew that at that early of an age that I could sing Elvira. And so he arranged, Pete Ceruzzi is this guy's name, and Pete arranged for me to meet the guys. And that's how I first met the Oaks, and we just established a close friendship from day one.
They are so blown away that you've taken that childhood gift and that your voice has, I don't even know how to explain, that your voice has gone from this great childhood tone to this unbelievable tone you have. And the thing that is amazing to a lot of us is that you can do melody lines, you can do, and then you can drop it into this deep bass. Bill Gaither didn't even know that you could do that, because when we were on that cruise, and Gene left like mid cruise, and there was some song that they were doing that called for a really deep bass. I forget what it was.
I can't remember the song, but you're right. Yeah.
But after the first show, I was just watching, and I thought, wow, Gene's gone. Why didn't Bill get Bradley to do this? And so between shows, I went to Bill and I said, hey, Bradley can hit those notes in that. And he said, Bradley Walker? And I said, yes, Bradley Walker can hit those notes. He said, are you sure? I said, I'm telling you. And so then he got you up at the second show, and you were nailing it. And I was watching Bill's eyes wide. It was, but your range is just unbelievable. And that's one thing that the Oaks are just so excited that you have gone from this childhood thing to having this great career as an adult.
Well, I'm no Gene McDonald. I'll say that, and no Richard Sturban. But it's funny because there's video online, of me as a 10-year-old kid singing with the Oak Ridge Boys, and Richard Sturban right beside me, singing "Um Papa Mau Mau." And Richard has told me just over the past year or so, he said, I never dreamed that you would be a bass singer. And I said, neither did I. It's just something that's kind of developed. I had some other dear friends who, years ago, some songwriter friends of mine, they would be singing as a trio, and they would say, hey, come up here. We're going to do some gospel songs, sing some bass on this. And it started out just as something for fun. And I wound up then recording with those guys some and doing some bass parts, and it just developed. And then when this thing came along with Ben, Mike, and Jimmy, naturally I just sang most of the bass parts in the quartet. And like I said, I never dreamed that I'd be doing that or it would ever be known for singing bass. But I love it. I have a ball doing it, and just very thankful. And you'd asked about the Oak Ridge Boys, how I wound up singing with them on a show that's very near and dear to your heart as well. Nashville Now. We sang together for the first time at one of their fan club parties. You remember when they used to do all the fan club picnics and parties back in the day in Nashville?
Oh, yeah.
And it was usually about this time of year because this is Fanfare Week, or what used to be called Fanfare Week in Nashville. But I sang with the guys one summer at their fan club party, just a very impromptu Elvira. And then after that, probably just a few months after that, Joe called. So just to give you this and your audience this, to tell them how, because you already know, what great people the Oak Ridge Boys are.
Yeah.
But back when I was 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, my phone would ring at home and it would be Joe Bonsall on the other end of the line. Hey, buddy, this is Joe. I'm in Atlantic City, or I'm at Bally's in Vegas, or wherever they might be. Just thinking about you. Want to call, see how you're doing. This is before we had cell phones, before we had everybody's contact information at our disposal at all times. He would just have me on his mind and call and stay in touch. Those guys have been heroes of mine, not just in music, but in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
They gave a kid, a young kid like myself, an opportunity. They were in the prime of their careers at this time, and
you were probably, I don't know, lacking a little self-confidence at that point.
I was, of course, trying to find my voice, and that was really my introduction to what I call the real music business. Being backed up by Mr. Jerry Whitehurst, who anybody ever watched Nashville Now, in a band of that caliber. That's when I think knew, even at 10 years old, hey, I might be able to do this. And it was the Oak Ridge Boys who gave me those opportunities early on to allow myself to know that early in my life that music was something that I could do, and to have an opportunity to pursue those dreams.
I know the answer to this, but I want to give you the opportunity to speak to this. How big a part has your mother played in you becoming the man you are?
Can't put it into words. I mean, there's no way you can put that into words.
Your mom and your stepdad are awesome people, Bradley.
They are. You're absolutely right. They are. They travel with me pretty much everywhere that we go. They are right there with me, and support me, and want to see all my dreams come true. And they go above and beyond to make sure that they're doing everything they can for that to happen, and I mean, I can't put it into words.
Was there ever a time that your mother, I mean, this is a Southern expression that that many of our viewers may not understand, but you and I will understand. Was there ever a time that your mother had to jerk a knot in you and and tell you, listen, son, this is what you're going to do, and this is what how you're going to think and how you're going to act? Did she ever have to jerk a knot in you?
Well, she taught me early on that, hey, just because you're in a wheelchair, you don't get any special treatment. You're no different from anyone else. That wheelchair doesn't allow you to get out of doing anything. I went to a regular school from the time I was in kindergarten till I graduated high school. East Limestone High School. Is where I graduated. Went to regular classes that entire time. My mom fought for that. Hey, he can do this. He doesn't have to be in special classes. He can be in there with all the other kids. He's no different from anyone else, and that there's so many other things, but that was huge. Just saying, hey man, you're no different from anybody else, and if I catch you trying to get special treatment because of this wheelchair you're in, you're gonna get it when you get home. And I knew that. I knew that growing up, that hey, don't expect to be treated any differently just because you're in a wheelchair. You can do anything anybody else can do. It may look a little different. It may be a little different, but there's nothing you can't do. And that has, if not for that, I would not be where I am today, Andy.
I believe that. I totally believe that.
Yeah.
And just, for people who are overwrought about a lot of stuff, just let me assure you that Bradley Walker, he laughs at stuff that other people might be really offended about.
Oh yeah.
And that is one of the beautiful things about being around Bradley. And being around Ben and Jimmy and Mike and Bradley together, because they're so totally comfortable. Nobody's watching, so carefully anything they say. And it's, you are a very mature human being. That's one way I can describe you.
Well,
and so when did the Gaither thing happen? How did that occur?
I get chills just thinking about it, Andy. I met two very dear people in my life back about 2007, and I'm going back a little bit just to answer your question. Those two people were Joey and Rory Feek.
Joey and Rory. Yeah.
I met Joey and Rory. Their farm is about an hour north of me, and we became very dear friends. And for anybody who doesn't know, Joey and Rory were a very successful husband and wife duo in country music. And Joey fought a very courageous battle with cancer. And she went home to be with the Lord in March of 2016. And she had requested that when her time came, that I sang at her graveside. She requested this specific song she wanted me to sing, which was "Leave It There." I'm sorry.
That's what it was. Leave It There.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the song "Leave It There" is what she wanted me to sing at her graveside, and so I did that. Such an honor to do that, because Joey was such a sweet, dear, sweet person. But I sang at Joey's graveside with two dear friends of mine, Carl Jackson and Val Story. And that is where Bill Gaither heard me sing for the first time. God can take any circumstance or any situation and bring a positive from a very negative or a very tragic situation, any situation.
The next week, Bill signs you to a recording contract.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Hey, I know I'm springing this on you, and if my wife were here, she would kick me and say, "Don't do this to him." But could you just a cappella just sing a verse of "Leave It There"?
Yeah. Leave it there, leave it there. Take your burden to the Lord, and leave it there. If you trust Him through your doubt, He will surely bring you out. Take your burden to the Lord, leave it there.
Thank you, buddy.
You're welcome.
That is
You're welcome.
awesome.
But that's
That
how Bill heard me. And I mean, you have to picture we're outside on a beautiful spring day, winds blowing. There's no sound system. There's no nothing. It's just me and two dear friends with one guitar. And Bill tells the story that he leaned over to Gloria and asked, "Who is that?" Talking about myself. And what's funny, what a lot of people don't know is I didn't meet Bill that day.
really.
I met Gloria. Joey's mom, Miss June, introduced me to Gloria before the service ever even started, just real brief. But I didn't get to meet Bill that day. And I had no idea that he would be paying attention. At a time like that, that's just not what you're thinking about.
Right.
But as you said, a week or two later, Rory calls me and says, "Hey, man, the Gaithers want to do a record on you and do a video on you." And such an unexpected blessing, because I never dreamed that I would ever be a part of the Gaither Homecoming family. And that's been musically and for my music career, it's been the best thing that's ever happened for my music career itself. Is to be
Bill told me, and this was soon after you were signed, and I asked Bill, I said, "Now tell me who's the guy in the wheelchair." That's
right. Mm-hmm.
I referred to you. I didn't know who you were.
Right.
And he said, "Andy, Bradley Walker has the greatest country voice I have heard since Randy Travis, the most pure country voice since Randy Travis." And I was like, wow. That's one thing for just, somebody like me to say, but for Bill to say that.
Wow.
So I don't know if you ever knew that he thought that about you.
Wow.
But that's amazing. I've long thought that something is in the water up in that Athens, Gadsden area. Because Gordon Moat comes from there.
Yep.
You, Red Irwin, who is a World War II Medal of Honor winner, who his grandsons became the Irwin brothers, the movie producers. What else up in that area? Alabama is up in that area.
Alabama. A dear friend of mine who's a great songwriter, guy by the name of Roger Murrah.
Roger Murrah, Rick and Bubba are from that area.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so it's just like, what are you guys drinking up there?
Well, it's a good place to be, and I mean, you and I are Alabama folks, and but I'm so thankful to live where I do, and to be this close to Nashville. I'm only a couple hours away from Nashville, and that's been a huge blessing in my life too. Is that I'm just far enough away from it that I'm not in the thick of it every day, but I'm close enough that I can be there when I need to be, and that's been a huge blessing to me as well. Really has.
What I know we're focusing on your music and not your speaking career. I mean, if you're wanting a great speaker for a school kind of thing or a church thing or a corporate thing, Bradley's your guy. And I know we're not really focusing on that today and more on the music, but I think the music gives your speaking career a lot of depth. And so I'm just curious, what are your favorite songs? Maybe a couple of songs that we would know that you don't do, but you just really appreciate that. And then what are a couple that you do that those are your favorites?
Wow. it's hard to pick songs. I can tell you that I'm a student of traditional country music. I mean, you mentioned Randy Travis, and Randy's probably the number one person that I get compared to more than anybody else. People would come
I
up
can
to
see
me
it.
and mention Randy's music and how my voice reminds him of Randy. And I mean, what a compliment. I've gotten to know Randy and Mary over the last few years, just sweet, sweet people.
Yeah.
People like Randy Travis, Merle Haggard is probably my number one influence on my vocal style. People like, of course, George Strait, Alan Jackson, but I go back to like I said, Haggard and Jones and Vern Gosdin, Keith Whitley, Gene Watson, the great traditional country singers. I mean, all of that music, songs that I do. There's a song that I had the opportunity to record several years ago called "Say Something," that was written by Sonia Isaacs and Tim Menzies. That is just a great song about faith. I love singing that song. I love our quartet. I love singing "The Lighthouse."
Oh man, I got chills first time I heard you sing "The Lighthouse."
The Hensons have always been a huge favorite of mine as far as gospel music. Kenny Henson's voice was just incredible. But yeah, just those country voices through the years are what have influenced me, and I've tried to take, kind of a mixture of all of that, all those people that I mentioned, and a whole lot more, and just take influences from all those people and mold that into my own style.
Yeah.
And I always say, regardless of what style of music I'm singing, whether it's gospel, whether it's a country song, whether it's, I spent a lot of years singing bluegrass music. It's all going to come out country. I mean, there's going to be a country flavor to all of it, But that's what I love. Voices like that, are what made me, I guess, the singer that I am today, and the people that I listened to that made my voice what it is today.
My my history with Nashville Now,
Mm-hmm.
and that time period that I was on that show all the time. And so as you were naming those names, it just like registered in my mind that I knew all those guys.
Mm.
Randy has been a particularly good friend of mine for 30 years. And but all those guys, in fact, the only one that you mentioned that I have never met is George Strait. Of everybody in that era, the two people that I never met George Strait, and I never met Don Williams. And I really, really love Don Williams. In fact, I was going to tell Ben next time I see him, so he'll watch this. So Ben, the next time Brothers of the Heart decides to do some ultimate covers, I mean, where you guys are a super group and you're taking some songs that people have heard and making them your own. But the next time you guys get together, I want to hear "Good Old Boys Like Me."
Ooh.
Done by Bradley.
Ooh.
I think that song is one of the best. Those words are just poetry, and I just think that's one of the best songs I've ever heard. And I just attach that to you.
When I was a kid, Uncle Ray was to put me to bed. That's a great song, man.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yep.
And one of the other verses, Thomas Wolfe whispering in my ear.
Mm-hmm.
Man, what a great song. So
what do you
that's
do
yours.
with good old boys like me? That's good.
I'm claiming that. I'm claiming that for you.
That's awesome, man.
Well, buddy, how can we help you? What can we do to help you? I've already we are creating a bunch of Brothers of Heart fans and Bradley Walker fans through our channels. And if there's anything we can do, you let us know. We want to get you down here. You have not been to this beach.
No, I've not, which, wheelchairs and beaches don't get along very well a lot of times.
Right.
But it's funny because one of my dearest friends growing up, when we were kids, they would go to Gulf Shores, all the time, and I've just not spent a lot of time in that part of the state. I've been to Mobile maybe twice. I know of going down there for an event. I used to travel years ago. I spent 3 years of my life as a young kid. Back then they called it being a poster child for the Muscular Dystrophy Association.
Right.
Now it's called being an ambassador. You got to be, everything's different these days. But I traveled the state speaking on behalf of the Muscular Dystrophy Association for 3 years. And I remember being down there at least one time in Mobile, but I've just not gotten that direction very much. But man, you asked what you could do for me. You've already, just your friendship.
Wow.
I can remember when we were on the cruise. I just remember telling several people, I gotta go hear Andy speak. When Andy speaks, for those that don't know, when we do these Gaither cruises, Bill always brings in people to do devotions in the morning and just do speak whatever's on their heart to us. That's a big part of what he does, not just on the cruises, but just about all his events. He'll have great speakers like yourself. Yeah. And I specifically remember saying, "Hey, I gotta go hear Andy," and I knew I wanted to meet you. And you have already, man, just your support of our quartet and what we do and what I do, and your friendship means the world to me, man. It really does. It's I try to soak up things that you say and just so much, because there's so many life lessons.
Well,
I think
you're kind, and I just happened to think while you're talking about the cruise, you guys were doing a little workshop in the theater one day, and it was you and I think Jimmy Fortune and Larry Gatlin and I was in the balcony and I had my big camera, and I'm going to give this to Matt so Matt can show this on the podcast, but I got a great picture of you and Larry Gatlin.
Oh,
you guys were sitting in my angle in the balcony, I could see where you guys were sitting like off stage.
Right.
And I got just a killer picture. And so we'll add this so people can see this.
Absolutely, man. I think about, because like we said early on, all I ever want to do is sing, and to look back on how God has crossed my path with so many people, like the Oak Ridge Boys, like Joey and Rory, like Bill and Gloria Gaither. And I could go on and on and on and on and on. There are so many people. Carl Jackson is a dear friend of mine who produced my very first solo album. Ben Isaacs, I met the Isaacs years ago. And then to get to sing with Ben and Mike and Jimmy, I grew up listening to the Statler Brothers, and to get to be on stage with somebody like Jimmy now, it amazes me that I get to do what I do. And that's, Andy, the one thing that I do try to tell people when I'm doing solo dates, because people a lot of times will want to know about my story, my testimony. The thing that I have tried to tell people is that if God can use my life the way that he has, he can and will use your life. to
Yeah.
glorify him. Maybe not, because we don't all have the same talents, the same gifts, but we all have gifts. We all have gifts that he gives us. And if you just let him use you to glorify him, he'll do it, and I'm just so thankful, man, to know you and to be able to call you a friend. And you came up, we played in Montgomery back in April. You came up and spent some time with us, just to get to know people like yourself and to have your support, man. It means the world. Thank you for that.
Well, we are honored to be able to do it. I'm honored to be your friend. And thank you for joining us. We're going to put all your connections, your website, bradleywalker.com, and your Facebook, your Instagram, your YouTube, every way to connect you, we're going to put on the show notes. And we appreciate you, buddy. Thank you for being with us.
I appreciate you. Thank you for what you do and for your friendship. And I can't wait to see you in person again real soon, hopefully.
We'll make it happen.
Sounds great. Love you, buddy.
You too. I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing what tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Chew toys for the cast and crew provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by smallerofeverything.com. When radios were invented, they were huge, bulky things. Then, in step-by-step improvements, they became smaller. Many items made this same transition from original size to a smaller version of the same thing. Telephones, television sets, even bathing suits. Somewhere along the line, however, the size reduction stopped. According to experts, things were as little as they were ever going to get. Not so, say the fine folks at smallerofeverything.com. We have, as the name suggests, smaller versions of everything. Do you have a footstool you just can't raise your foot to anymore? We have a tiny version of the same thing. In one of our franchise locations, we can turn an old Volkswagen Bug into a brand new Mini Cooper in less than a week. With our special breeding program, we're now offering miniature Chihuahuas. Anything you want, we've got it smaller. We are smallerofeverything.com. Some plastic surgeries also available.